I saw this morning when I started, and I said, my goodness, what a way to start my morning. The New York Times bought The Athletic. The Athletic was a failing subscription website that has lost hundreds of millions of dollars, has a lot of woke sports writers there. New York Times bailed them out. This was written in The Athletic this morning. England's women's soccer team has been successful in recent years, but the team doesn't look like the country it represents. I'm reading from the Athletic headline right now. Its players are almost all white, and it has a long way to go to improve diversity. That's the headline from The Athletic, the UK edition. And then it has a picture of white girls that are on the English soccer team. First of all, England, I hate to break this to you, they got a lot of white people in that country. If you walk around the English streets, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I think around 90% of England is white. So almost every athletic team, just based on the race of the average English person, would, believe it or not, be white. But I don't care. The goal of a sports team, I like to just strip down and go right to the essence of what the goal of an athletic team is. What is it? To win. The women's soccer team in England has been, as the tagline says, very successful. Why do we care what the race is of the English women's soccer team? All we should care about is the team dominant? Are they capable of going out and kicking the crap out of everyone else out there? If the answer is yes, that's the goal. No one sits around and points out that many of our athletic teams, even in a cosmetically diverse country like the United States, are not perfectly representative of the overall population. The NBA overwhelmingly is made up of black men, far in excess of the black population. The NHL overwhelmingly is made up of white men, far in excess of the overall population. That isn't because the NHL and the NBA are racist. It's because the best people get those jobs. If you wanted, and I wrote this in my book, which I would encourage a lot of you to go read, Republicans Buy Sneakers Too. I'm working on a new book now. Going to be out next year at some point. But Republicans Buy Sneakers Too, I had a big part where I discussed the cosmetic diversity illusion. And I said, hey, you know what? NFL teams are not remotely representative of the overall population. If you were super woke and you owned an NFL franchise, you could say to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ensure that my football team perfectly reflects the racial and the sexual makeup of this country. I'm going to make sure that 60 some odd percent of my team is white. I'm going to make sure that 13% of them are Hispanic. I'm going to make sure that 12% of them are black, 4% are Asian, and I'm going to make sure that half of my team is female, because NFL teams right now are totally overlooking women. They're sexist. We need an NFL team that is 50% female as well. That NFL team would perfectly reflect the existing American population. It could not be a more perfect representation of American demographics. That NFL team would lose every single game, and they probably would lose every game by 50 or more, and most games they would never score a touchdown. It would be diverse, it would be inclusive, and it would be awful. The goal of whatever entity is out there, the military, a sporting team, a business, should be to be the best possible version of itself. The most profitable, the most badass, and the most successful. Cosmetic diversity does not lead to those results. And so what I would ask you is your goal to dominate, or is your goal to reflect perfectly American demographics? Because in virtually every industry in the world of business, athletics, politics, whatever you want to point to, in order to dominate, you're not going to perfectly reflect the American population. And it's like no one will even point it out. And what I would say about this UK article is the only group that ever gets criticized for this is white people. There would never be an article saying the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team is too black. Why not? Because the goal is to have the best team on the court, regardless of background. Now, if you're selling me on the idea that the team would be better and is overlooking more talented players, then what I would say is that's a flaw in your overall system. But by and large, athletics does a pretty good job of finding the most talented players, since if you don't get them, somebody else will. And then they will use them to beat your ass. That's how college football got integrated. Sam Bam Cunningham ran all over the field against University of Alabama back in the day. And Bear Bryant said, you know what? Maybe we need to have a little bit more diverse football team. Get the best talent and put them in positions to win in business, in life, in the military, wherever it is, to create the best possible organizations. Success will follow. The idea that you want athletics or the military or anywhere to perfectly approximate and reflect what existing society represents demographically is a surefire way to guarantee that you lose. Because talent in virtually every field is not going to perfectly mirror whatever American demographics are. At least in my experience. Kick ass. That's the goal. Win as many games. Kick the ass of your opponents in the military. Make yourself as wildly profitable as you can and win in the game of capitalism. Competition begets dominance. The more competitive you are, the better you become. But you cannot be focused on cosmetic issues when it comes to incredibly competitive endeavors.